What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be making a $5 accent can light. The reason for this is I just recently bought these Phillips Hue Color bulbs, and I've been having a hard time trying to find where to put them in the house. I don't want to change my lamps in the house, and I like the colors and everything, and the white bright is actually white enough to use in your house. But what I want to do is just to have, added color effects, maybe like triggered motion alarms, something like that. I don't know yet. Right now I'm just using it as a nice color light that I can kind of play with. So I kept looking around for accent cans, which are just basically, as they sound, just a can light, just big enough to house a bulb. And they're expensive, and I don't know exactly what I want yet, and it's hard to find something small too. So what I've found, I went to a store that's out by us called Five Below. I'm not sure what states they're in right now, but they're starting to spread. And I bought these lamps. These are normally just supposed to be lamps that you just set up upright, put your bulb in, and then you have to buy another shade. You have to buy a shade too, and I think the shades are $3. So you could just do this if you just want a simple cheapy looking lamp, I guess. Kind of looks like a dorm room decor because it's not the best quality. I wouldn't use this as a decorative piece of my house, but you can see that it is only $5, and it's pretty solid. So when I saw this, I got the idea, well, why not just take the stem, flip it around, and use this as a base? So that's what we're going to be doing here today. To do a good job of this, you're going to need some tools. First thing that I used, I guess it's not required, but I would definitely recommend, is a good solder iron and some solder, because we're going to need to cut the wire that's in here to get it out, because it is looped through there. And you could take it apart to the socket base, but I looked at it, you're just asking for trouble. I think it's a lot easier just to resplice it. I definitely recommend getting yourself some heat shrink tubing, a pair of wire cutters, maybe just a pair of pliers, something to shrink the heat shrink tubing. I just use a lighter because it's easier in tighter spaces. You can use a heat gun, which you're supposed to do, I believe. The first thing we're going to want to do, as you can see, there is a nut down in the bottom of the base there, so we're just going to remove that. I actually just did this one by hand, so you may not need pliers to do this job. Cut the tags off. Get these out of the way. Undo the cord. That tag off. One thing I would do before you forget, I left this on, this little stupid, bulb rating and all that. I would take that off, because if you leave it on, you're going to see it. This is a black can, and this is a shiny silver sticker. So I pull that off right away before you forget. There's also a UL hologram sticker. I would take that off as well. On the other end of this is just a threaded base, which you don't need to use. So we're just gonna take that off. This one is a little bit tight. This is where the pliers might actually come into play. They're just on threads from the base here. Like so. Alright, and then this cord, fortunately, has identifiers on it. I don't know if you can see that or not on the camera. the top one has stamped lettering on it and the other one's just blank. So it kind of helps you keep track of which one's which. But what you can do, which is not a bad idea, don't cut it too short either, by the way, because you're going to need to strip this. So, but you want to short it enough to where it fits in the can and it doesn't protrude out. So I think I did mine at a couple inches like that. And an easy way to keep track of which side is which, even if you didn't have that stamping, is just to go ahead and strip it before you lose track. Or strip one side, I should say. So you just go in here, strip off about an inch. So now I use wire cutters. This is a practice thing that you can strip with, but if you're not careful, you can easily cut through, and when you're yanking on it, you're putting force on the line, which can pull it out of a socket. Sometimes if it's junky cord, you won't strip the wire all the way through. I would probably get a good pair of wire strippers for people that are new to, butt joining wire together. Or if you're just like me and you don't care, you learn it. It's not the hardest thing to learn to do the right way, but it is trickier. Alright, so I'm going to strip this side that also has the lettering. Again, about another inch or so. Like that. So now we know which side is which. Alright, so all of this hardware we can pull off. We're not going to use it. Originally, what I was going to do was just to flip the base and run a nut on the bottom, but the only problem with that is it's not going to sit flat and you don't want it rocking on a nut. So I was thinking, I'll just get some little rubber feet or whatever and make a stand. But I was like, I don't want that. I really don't want that space underneath it. I just want this to sit flat on its can bottom. So that's why I'm going to glue it in place using Gorilla Glue. This stuff works pretty good. If you're new to this, this is, I don't know, the original Gorilla Glue. It's the orange color one. It comes in different sizes. This stuff, when it dries, is the hardest glue that I've ever seen in my life. It kind of gets, it foams up a little bit. It's kind of an expanding glue, and it gets hard as a rock. It is super hard to break. So especially for applications like this is way more than you need. I used to use hot glue a lot for projects, but I like this stuff better. It's just way stronger. Alright, so we're gonna pull the cord out of this side. Like so. Pull the rest of the hardware off, this nut and washer. We're also not going to need that, so you're going to have a bunch of cool hardware left over too out of this project, out of this $5 project. The funny thing is too, with this, just to get like this part, the hardware, and the cord, obviously, all together, you could spend more than $5 just for this. So that just shows you how great of a value this is, doing it this way. It takes a little bit more time, but like I said, accent can lights, I couldn't find anything. I was looking, I kind of wanted wood ones, but they were like $20 for faux wood. And I was considering making one, but I don't have a drill press or anything like that to drill out a log and make one. So if I see anything really cheap, maybe I'll switch to wood eventually one day. But for right now, this is kind of a nice decorative piece, for an accent can light. And depending on where you're putting it, some of these are just hidden behind like plants and like furniture and stuff, and it just kind of illuminates on the wall. So a lot of these are not even seen anyway. This is literally just a receptacle for the bulb sometimes. The next trick here is, since the cord originally comes out of the bottom, which we don't want because we're going to glue the bottom to the base, this just unscrews. Like so. And then you can pull out the receptacle like so, and you can see what I was talking about, like the the cord is down in there pretty good. I think it's soldered in, so I really didn't want to mess with, you know, the factory job on this. Like, it's solid, so just leave it. What we're gonna do instead is I'm gonna drill a hole to make it a right angle to come out the side instead of the bottom. Now I've done one of these already, and instead of using a drill bit the size of the cord, start with a pilot bit, a smaller bit, because the first one I did, this plastic is so cheap that as I was drilling the hole out, it came out a bigger hole than I had wanted because it's cheap plastic. It's kind of brittle and it cracked. So I'm just going to use a small little drill here, and let's see, I'm using a 5/64 drill bit just to start my pilot. And I found the best place to do this is kind of in a hard spot, unfortunately, right on the round part. So let's go ahead and pilot that out. The other thing I would do as well is you have your slots, as you can see, for the light switch. Put it in between, and then you can go an extra step in the ugly goo. Do it on that side, because this is going to be your back side, facing the wall. You won't see it. This is a little bit tricky drilling on a radius too. The easiest way to drill on a radius, I found, is to bring your drill up to speed and then start just scratching it, kind of, and it'll find a groove and it'll grab and it'll drill really well if you're having trouble. Alright, so now we're stepping up to a bigger drill bit. I'm using a 1/4 inch, which is plenty big enough for the cord to go through. Let's see if I can do this one without cracking it. Beautiful. So the other thing too, don't apply a lot of pressure because again, it's cheap and brittle. It will crack. And you can see my perfectly drilled hole out the side. You're going to want to run your lines through the hole, like so. And then we're just going to screw the cap back on to the receptacle. There you have it. A nice, beautiful, right angle cord exit. So you just take your cut wire, find the seam, pull it through, give yourself a lot of slack. So you want your plug on the outside, your wire on this side. So what I like to do is try to solder these in line, the same orientation that the cord was in, and then twist your wires together. I use a really fine solder just because it instantly melts. I mean, this stuff is super thin. As soon as the heat hits it, it instantly melts. For smaller jobs like this, it works pretty well. You can bend it down here a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So all you're doing when you solder something like this, the trick is we just want to get soldered down the line, and all that's doing is basically filling in all the gaps of the wire that's meshing, and it makes it really strong as well. So you're getting better conductivity, conductivity, and also strength. All you need to do is just touch the iron to the solder, let gravity do the work. You can also heat the line too if you want, the wire, and as it gets hot the solder will stick to it and melt. And all you're doing is just making it look, you know, nice and neat, and you know, you can put a liberal amount on there. It doesn't have to be a ton. And then when you're done, it should look something like that. It's going to be silver. The other side, if you put a lot on there, it's going to just naturally wrap around because of gravity. And you'll have a really good soldered connection. If it's easier and you're paying attention, you might want to strip these before you solder too. But again, I'm really skilled when it comes to doing things not maybe the best way of stripping wire with wire cutters instead of using a wire stripper. Funny thing is too is I've tried wire strippers in the past, and I haven't found one that I liked yet. So again, just twisting it all the way down, and then we're going to apply our solder. This is a good habit to get into too, soldering connections. I didn't used to traditionally. I used to just used to use tape, and a lot of times I would just use duct tape. Wouldn't even use electrical tape. I don't know if there's a real advantage to using electrical tape. Honestly, I find duct tape is better sometimes because it's stronger. Electrical tape will actually let go eventually, especially if it's in bad condition or like poor environments, and just give you all sorts of problems. But I use electrical tape for this kind of stuff. In a pinch, I've used duct tape though on heavier jobs. I guess that's one of the other problems too with duct tape, is it's just so, you know, so thick. It's a little bit harder to work with. But I would do those duct tape. So what I do too is a good idea is first wrap each connector. And even if you were using the heat shrink tubing, you're still going to want to do this because obviously you don't want your connections to touch, or you got a huge electrical fire. And it doesn't need to be a whole heck of a lot. Electrical tape is made to be an insulator, I believe. So it will keep your connections from shorting. Maybe that's what electrical tape, maybe it has some sort of composition that's specifically an electrical insulator. I don't know. I've never really worried about it. If you're using a lot of duct tape, you know, especially more than one wrap, you're going to be fine. The other thing I usually do too when I'm doing these is I'll take the cord and I'll bring it down to where it's in line with its original direction, and then I just wrap the tape around the connection. I'm not sure, I'm not an electrician or anything, but that's the way I've always done it, and I'm not sure if electricians do that or not. It's always worked for me in the past on the thousands of things that I've wired. This part doesn't have to be too pretty, it just has to be functional. So as long as you get enough tape around the connection and try to go up the cord a little ways, it's going to be good and strong. Now, Now that you got both these on, and you can see how bunchy and ugly that looks, you can just run some electrical tape. And I don't know if you notice either what I'm doing. Try to pre-cut this stuff instead of running it off the thing, because it was a bad habit I used to have, is I would run the tape directly off the roll, and then I would pull it and snap it. When you pull it and snap it, the tape loses its elasticity, and it doesn't grip as good. So you really want to cut it, and then when you cut it and you pull it, you can pull it with a little bit of tension and pull it on a diagonal like this, and it just makes a really strong line when you do that. Now, obviously, this is not going to look like the original cord, but that is strong. That ain't going anywhere. Okay. Next step, we're going to slide the heat shrink tubing over our taped connectors. So we can go ahead and do that. Just even it up nice and even. And then I'll show you how to do this with a lighter. Real easy. All I'm doing is just slowly letting it do its thing. Don't set it on fire, just kind of gauge it. You don't have to keep it on constant heat. And just watch it until it's good and tight. Doesn't have to be ultra tight. And as you can see, the ends are nice and shrunk down, and just makes this more solid connection. Make sure that's good and tight. There we go. It stiffens up a little bit too after it cools down. Now that we got the wire run back through, all of our taping is done, we're going to go ahead and glue the base of the electrical outlet to the base of the can. To do this, first thing you're going to want to do, what I found that was pretty advantageous, take the original stem bolt that came in the socket, go ahead and just screw back in the same way that it was. You're going to want to take this nut off. Going the long way because there's like Loctite in the threads there, and it doesn't go over it very easily. So I'm screwing this back into the receptacle, like so. Nice and tight, doesn't have to be super tight. Just hand tight. And then we're going to take our Gorilla Glue and glue the hole around the radius so that the bottom of the receptacle will stick to it. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky because the glue will touch the threads, but it will break free, just twisting it ever so gently. And a little dab will do it. You don't need to get crazy with it because like I said, this stuff is expanding glue and it will make a mess faster than anything. So you want to be careful where you're putting this stuff. Make sure to twist your receptacle so that the cord that we have ran through the side is directly in line with the seam. And then once that's all lined up and pretty, take one of the nuts that came with this and just thread it back down. This is going to be our holder as the glue dries. If there's any glue that's kind of goobing up through the hole or wherever have you, go ahead and wipe this down now, because if you don't do it now, you'll regret it later. This stuff, like I said, dries super hard. And just get that nice and tight, so you got a nice little holder there. And then the last step that I like to do, just for added security, is where the cord sticks out, where the seam is there. I'm just running just a little bit more glue around this. This will act as an anchor. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. There we go. Make sure too, since gravity is an issue, to set this with the cord up so this stuff doesn't run down and give you a huge bead of mess. All I gotta do is unscrew the nut, pull it out, and then you got yourself a brand new lamp. There you go. I'm using a Phillips Hue light right now. I just have it on the blue color, and you can change it to any color you want. I just got it down really low right now, but it looks quite nice.